Hello, I'm Janelle Diller, and I'm the author of the Australia, Austria, and Mexico series of the Pack and Go Girls Adventure series. If you haven't discovered Pack and Go Girls yet, you should look for them. They are so much fun. They are all about an American girl who goes to another country and meets a girl from that country. And together they explore haunted castles in Austria, or chase space aliens in Australia, or save turtles or dolphins in Brazil, find hidden treasure in Thailand, or in Mexico, they catch dinghy thieves, and they also discover a little magic in the plaza. And that's what I'm going to read to you today. The first chapter of Mystery of the Disappearing Dolphin. It's the second book in the Mexico series. The first one, Mystery of the Thief in the Night, is out there, and so have fun with these books. Chapter 1, The Dream. Nothing made sense. Nothing. Izzy watched the spooky shadow float into her stateroom. It swam through the air, diving and rising over her bed. With each dip, it crept closer and closer. She tried to scream to scare the shadow away, but no sound came out. She felt frozen on her bed. Her legs and arms wouldn't move. She yelled again and again. There was no noise. Her heart pounded. The gray shape shifted into something she knew. A fish, a giant fish, a fish that purred like a cat. Izzy couldn't figure out how the fish got inside Dreamcatcher, the sailboat she lived on. The silver monster drifted over her bed. It dove toward her. Streaks of blue light flashed over its back. Slowly, it swished its tail up and down, and then it twisted and flipped like a dolphin. The dolphin sang to her in perfect English. "Don't worry, be happy." Izzy hadn't known dolphins could speak English or sing. She answered in Spanish. She didn't know what she said, but she knew she'd said it perfectly. Izzy loved that she knew more Spanish than the dolphin. The dolphin chattered. Clang, clang, clang. It sounded like metal. A metal bat hitting a jungle gym. Kind of. Clang, 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 clang. Izzy opened her eyes. Poof. The dolphin disappeared. Izzy shook her head to clear it. Kitty still slept in her favorite spot. The cat lay between Izzy and the hull, or outside wall of the boat. What a weird dream. Her heart still pounded. The dream seemed spooky real. She half expected the dolphin to float back into her stateroom. Izzy heard the clanging again. Now she knew the sound. The wind must have picked up. The lines that raised the sails banged against the mast, the tall pole that held the mainsail. Izzy tried to think of the word her dad used. Halyards, that was it. That was the sailing word for them. The halyards clanged against the mast. The wind rarely blew in the morning. A storm must be coming in. That never happened this time of year. Weird dream, weird weather, a weird start to the day. Izzy crawled out of bed and pulled the sheets off. Her mom would put fresh ones on later because her Uncle Rob and Aunt Ella were arriving today. They would sleep in her stateroom or bedroom. They would sleep. Everything on a boat had a different name than the same thing in a house. It was like talking another language. Izzy would sleep on the living room or salon of the boat. Izzy hoped her mom would let her sleep in the cockpit instead. Izzy loved sleeping out in the fresh air. 2 roosters crowed on shore. Izzy never heard roosters crowing in their marina in Seattle. That's where she and her mom and dad lived before they started sailing in Mexico. She dug around in the cubby below her bed, or berth. She pulled out clean shorts and a clean tank top. She wished she hadn't put her sailboat t-shirt in the laundry. She should have thought ahead so she could wear her favorite shirt when her favorite aunt came to Dreamcatcher. She ran her fingers through her red curls. A brush would be better. This was easier. Izzy thought about the dream again. It had been so easy to talk Spanish in the dream. Why couldn't it be like that in real life? She headed out to the galley, or kitchen. Izzy's mom and dad sat in the cockpit, a few feet up and outside. She could hear them whispering. They didn't do that often. They only did it when they were mad about something. They had a hard time keeping a fight secret in a small place like a boat. She hated when they fought. Her mom had left a new box of milk on the counter for his cereal. When they first started sailing in Mexico, Izzy thought milk in a box was strange. Milk should always stay in the refrigerator. Her mom thought it was really cool, though, that they could keep milk in a cabinet till they needed it, since they didn't have much refrigerator space in the boat. Her mom said a lot of Mexican homes didn't have refrigerators. Milk in a box made it easier for them to have milk more often. Izzy poured granola into a bowl. She cut up a few fresh strawberries and added some milk. Then she sat down at the table and opened up her math book. "Morning, sweetheart," her mom called down to her from the cockpit. "Morning, Izzy, Lizzie," her dad said. "Morning," Izzy said back. She took a bite of crunchy cereal. Izzy stared at her multiplication problems. The weird dream filled her head. The wind rattled the halyards again. Something just felt spooky with it all. No, it felt creepy. The talking dolphins seemed so real. She tried to focus on her math. "I'm telling you, Annie," Mr. Bennett whispered. For a whisper, it was a loud one. "The first thing Rob will say is that it's too hot. Then he'll complain about the taxi driver. Then he'll grumble about how we live on a boat." Izzy's mom sighed. Her dad kept right on talking. "I don't even know why he's coming to Mexico. He hates traveling and gripes about anything that's not like home. Remember when they went to Germany last year? Whine, whine, whine. Every single email." Izzy wished they'd stop fighting. Even more, she wished they would just let her go to Hotel Siesta and play with her new friend Patti. But then she also had to wish Patti would be out of school early. She sighed and stared at her math problems. Her dad couldn't stop talking. "Rob even gets nervous about going to California." He snorted in disbelief. "I mean, for goodness sake, California." Izzy looked up toward the cockpit. She could see her dad's long legs. His tanned hands were spread out on his knees. He leaned in towards Izzy's mom. Mrs. Bennett said something Izzy couldn't hear. "I know Ella is your sister, and I know if your sister comes to visit, she's going to bring her husband," Mr. Bennett muttered. "All I'm saying is that he complains too much, and he's suspicious about anyone who isn't just like him. So that means he's suspicious about the entire world." Suspicious. Izzy rolled that word around in her mouth. She wasn't sure what it meant, but it didn't sound nice. She wrote it down like it sounded. Suspicious. She'd ask her dad what the word meant when he was in a better mood. "I just don't like having him stay on the boat," her dad whispered loudly. Mrs. Bennett murmured something back. Mr. Bennett snorted and said, "That tightwad. Rob would never pay for a room if he can stay for free, and we can't afford to pay for a hotel room for them." By now, he'd completely forgotten he was supposed to be quiet. "Unless you want to quit sailing earlier and go back to Seattle." There it was. Money again. They always had to watch their budget. It meant Izzy always had something to worry about, as if she didn't have enough already because she lived on a boat. What did the dolphins say? Don't worry, be happy. She could do the happy part of that, but stop worrying, not a chance. "Let's see," Izzy said out loud. 27 times 34. Maybe her mom and dad had forgotten she could hear them. 7 times 4 is 28. Carry the 2. She tapped her pencil on the paper. "Sorry, Izzy, Lizzie," Mr. Bennett called down to her. "We'll try not to talk so loud." "You could just let me go kayaking. Then you wouldn't have to whisper," Izzy said. Her mom laughed. Izzy liked the sound. It meant maybe they weren't super mad at each other. Mr. Bennett leaned over to look at Izzy. "I think we'd all like to go kayaking for a week while Uncle Rob is on the boat." "Mark," Mrs. Bennett said. She laughed again, though. She glanced at her watch. "Speaking of, we should head to shore to meet them at Hotel Siesta. Rob and Ella's cab should be here soon." Mr. Bennett groaned. Izzy said a silent cheer. At least she wouldn't have to do schoolwork today. She put away her math book. She gathered up her hat, flip-flops, and sunglasses. Then she put on sunscreen. She already had plenty of freckles, thank you very much. At the last minute, she stuffed her swimsuit in her bag in case her mom let her swim at the hotel with Patti. They all climbed into Ringy Dingy, their trusty little boat that would take them to shore. In just the last few weeks, Izzy had become extra glad for it. She patted the sides of the rubber boat. When the families had first arrived in the Barra de Navidad lagoon, they worried a thief would steal their small boat. Izzy loved knowing her friend Patti and she were kind of local heroes. They had figured out who was stealing the dinghies in the lagoon. Now all the boaters felt safe to anchor again in the calm, protected water. The three of them zipped to shore. They pulled up to the dinghy dock at the Hotel Siesta and tied the boat to a cleat. "There you are," a man's voice boomed. "Finally!" Izzy caught her dad rolling his eyes at her mom. Her mom raised her eyebrow at her dad. Rob and Ella Dawson waved at them from a table in the restaurant that was part of the Hotel Siesta. Izzy ran over and threw her arms around her favorite aunt. "Well, Izzy, aren't you darling in your straw hat and pink sunglasses?" Mrs. Dawson said. "You just get prettier every time we see you." "Still the smartest kid in the class?" Mr. Dawson asked. He gave Izzy a quick, awkward hug. "Yep, the smartest and the dumbest kid, since I'm the only kid in the class right now." Mr. Dawson laughed at her joke. Izzy knew he would. She knew her uncle could be cranky sometimes, but never with her. Izzy always thought of him as a big teddy bear kind of guy. Mrs. Bennett hugged Mr. Dawson. He gave a quick peck on the cheek and shook Mr. Bennett's hand. "Good to see you, Mark and Annie," he said. He took off his baseball cap and fanned his face. "Boy, I don't know how you can take this heat. It's too much for me." Mr. and Mrs. Bennett looked at each other. "And that taxi driver? He was a crazy man. Drove 100 miles an hour down part of the highway. How nuts is that?" Uncle Rob," Izzy said, they use kilometers here instead of miles. I think that was 100 kilometers an hour." Izzy did the math in her head. "So he was driving 60 miles an hour." "Huh?" Mr. Dawson wrinkled up his nose. "Oh, well, it was still too fast. He was crazy, just crazy." He sat back down in his chair. "I'm starving. Let's grab some lunch before we get on that dinky sailboat of yours. Honestly, I don't know why you're living on a boat, all crammed together like that." He shook his head and picked up the menu. Mrs. Dawson's shoulders drooped a bit. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett looked at each other again. Izzy sighed. It was going to be a long, long week. That's the end of chapter 1. Make sure you pick up Mystery of the Disappearing Dolphin and find out what happens with Patti and Izzy as they go exploring and discover something magical in the plaza.